Hello, everybody. Welcome to this latest episode of House of League. It's been another interesting, fascinating, intriguing week in Super League. We've had a chairman saying a few words, which has certainly set a few tongues wagging. We've got Hull Kingston Rovers marching on at the top of the table, 3 points clear and looking imperious, is the word I'm going to use after their fantastic victory over Lee. We've had transfers, we've got news on Vegas, we've got it all going on this week, which is good because we've got the right people to talk about it. I'm James Smales. I'm joined by Matt Shaw and Josh McAllister. Matt, good week.
I've had a very good week, mainly because I had 2 days off from this nonsense of a sport. I switched off for 2 days, and I feel like a new man. My week started terribly last week. I've got to tell people about this. This man here ruined everything for me. Trying to give him a lesson in music because he's not very cultured.
Right, when he says music, let me just add that this is pop world sort of music, that kind of music.
Oh, like, other cheesy, bars are available, just not to Matt.
No, Mavericks and
although
Flares
he'd
are
be
good.
all up for a sponsorship from said pop world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were. I was like, right, who sings this? And it was Dancing on My Own by Robin. Didn't know it. He went, oh, it's that Aussie woman. I said, no, it's Robin. And I went, who did you mean, that Aussie woman? And he went, oh, Kylie Minogue. That Aussie woman.
It was just a
it's
slip
a
of the mind
travesty.
For 10 seconds. And this was after he'd already questioned me on 25 songs beforehand. And then, as I said before we came on air, he got Bob Marley and Bob Dylan mixed up.
No, I didn't. I just thought Bob Dylan was a reggae.
You just thought they were both reggae and just both called Bob. So we were both as bad as each other for a second there.
That's shambolic, not being able to reel off Kylie Minogue.
You're both pretty clueless when it comes to music. I'll say that. You are the pop world king. Come on.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
Unashamedly about it as well. If you can get them to sponsor your wedding, you will do. What we will say as well, get it out there because I know you want everybody to know. Was it the 6th time you won it at the weekend?
6-time Halifax table tennis doubles champion.
There we go.
Yes,
I mean, it's all we've heard about.
Zero-time singles champion. Didn't win it again.
What he's saying, he's only any good when he's got somebody supporting him and backing him up, which is what I find on a daily basis at work.
I could cop that from people, but not from you. You're good for a lift.
It's P45 coming at the end of the show. Listen, we have got quite a lot to talk about. Let's get rid of the nonsense. Let's start with, I teed it up earlier, Eamonn McManus' statement, which was, I mean, I should have brought the full thing in, but we've only got a half-hour show, and he had a lot to say. He blew up against pretty much everybody and supported Nigel Wood and said, listen, you got to let Nigel do it. He knows what he's doing. This all stems from a little bit of, you could say scaremongering, you could say people saying things about Nigel and about what's going on at the RFL and painting him in a bad light. And, you know, I would even say some of it is justified. Yep. Eamonn would say not. He's certainly fighting his corner. But it was what he said. It was the way it came across. He was firing darts at everybody, wasn't it? And it certainly had everybody sit up and take notice.
Yeah. Listen, a few thoughts on this. I agreed with a lot of what he said. Not sure that he went about it particularly the way that most people would, but, you know, that's Eamonn's prerogative to do as he wishes. I do agree. These anonymous letters that have been going around, I think...
Yes. We've had some ourselves come in.
Let's be honest, we didn't publish them. And the reason we didn't, because we don't know who these people are. This literally could just be a fan.
Yeah.
Just sent. So we didn't, you know, I think absolutely correct on that. I'm sure it's not just a fan. But if you're not going to put your name to stuff, come on. Anyway. The thing with Eamonn and the statement, while I did agree with a lot of what he said, the bit that stands out for me is Eamonn was part of the group that wanted rid of Nigel Wood.
Yes.
You know, if you go back to that time, there was only really Gary Hetherington pushing to keep Nigel and keep the model as it was.
Yeah.
So Gary, as we all know, is one of the people heavily behind Nigel's return as we speak. And whether you agree with that or not, you can take it from Gary because he said this was a bad idea in the first place.
He's been straight all the way through in his belief. You either agree with it, disagree with it, but it's unwavering
his
position.
Now, Eamonn, and not Eamonn alone, by the way, but we're talking about Eamonn because he put that statement out. It does come back to the point we've made on this show a couple of times already this year. A lot of the people now wanting Nigel Wood back were the ones who wanted rid of him and wanted the change. And if you remember at the time, it was for Super League to split and run itself. Essentially, they brought Robert Elston in. A mistake, got rid of him quick. IMG, look, let's be honest, if you're doing a strategic review, they clearly don't value IMG. So IMG are on the outer. Another mistake. And you know, I do think sometimes maybe there should be some ownership and accountability from the people who made those decisions who are now pushing for things again where they've got to go, well, hang on. My question to Eamonn would be this. Why should the sport trust the judgment of the owners? Not all of them, because not all of them were there at the time. But why should we trust the judgment of the owners who have made mistake after mistake making these decisions and then just trust them again? And this is coming from someone who actually thinks bringing Nigel Wood back, certainly in the interim, isn't a bad idea. But you can understand why people are coming back or would come back and say, well, hang on. You said this, and that. You can't. Yeah. Why should we just listen to you again?
Well, I think we sit in different camps on this. I'm not in the thinking it's a good idea to bring Nigel Wood back. I wouldn't have him anywhere near it, and I know that puts me at loggerheads with a lot of people in the game. But Matt makes a really good point there, Josh. Where are IMG in this? This really annoys me. They're getting paid a lot of money as part of this 10-year partnership. A lot of money. They're supposed to be the ones doing the strategic guidance of the game, and yet we've got a strategic review looking into the game while still paying IMG on this massive retainer that they've got. Where are they in this? We've not heard a peep out of IMG.
That is the question. Where are they?
The deal's pointless. You might as well rip it up now if you can.
That is the question, isn't it? Where are they? Dave Craven's favourite two words there, strategic review. But yeah, they're just, and there's no one fronting up it. A little bit like the RFL, there's no one really there to take accountability or for us to even try and talk to them.
They're invisible.
And this is where a point now where they need to come out and they probably need to hold a meeting with media and say, look, this is where we're at and this is how we're involved going forward, or if they're not involved going forward, because nobody really knows. And you're right, they're just nowhere to be seen at the minute. And it's a long strategic partnership that, you know, that has been questioned the whole time. Yeah, so we just need something there, don't we, to say where they're at with it all.
My worry is what the implications of all this political fighting, and that's essentially what we have now. I think, barring Eamonn, in fairness, it was fairly quiet last week. There wasn't a lot going on in the public. There was a lot going on privately, but it was kept private. But I just wonder what the implications are in terms of the NRL. Shane Richardson's come out and said there's no way they'll speak while Nigel Wood's involved.
No.
But also, I don't think it's doing our negotiating power of the sport any good. So it needs to be rectified. Just on the Nigel thing, the reason, and I did say, the reason I think it's a good idea from an interim perspective is because he will govern. He governed before, and a lot of people hated him, but he would make decisions. Which, let's be honest, the RFL have avoided trying to do for
and he made some good decisions as well. We've got Magic Weekend. You know, I'm not saying he never made any good decisions.
Yeah, got the broadcast deals up.
I think towards the back end, he made some.
Listen, I'm
some
not.
Poor ones as well, but
I'm not convinced Nigel being there long term's a good thing. But short for a 3-month period. Not so much for the strategic review, because I think what are we going to learn from this strategic review?
Same as we've learned from the other five in the last 10 years.
And this is probably my concern. It just feels at the minute to me you've got a lot of people pulling a lot of different directions. Some want to push forward with the NRL, some don't. And it comes back to the RFL not being strong enough, everyone is now trying to pull their own way. We need to get everyone pulling in the right direction.
Do you know what my issue is with these strategic reviews as well is they put the team together that's leading it, and they've all got great, rugby league background experience, if you will. There's nobody on there. I want somebody on there that's got no rugby league association or experience, that's used to running a high profile sport in organisation or working in a high profile sport, whether that be British Olympic Association or another Olympic association, or it be in football, or it be in cricket, or at the Lawn Tennis Association or something like that, that's got no connection to rugby league, to join that panel and come in and say, listen, you guys have just got this so wrong, or you've got this so right, but have an independent view. Where's the independence in that strategic review? That's my issue.
And this is the thing, like, I can almost predict what the strategic review will say. One of the big things it will say is that the French teams need to go is maybe a bit strong, but probably remove them, because I know from meetings that have taken place, Nigel Wood's made it very clear he's not a fan of the French teams. Well, so he's on the panel, so it's very clear what's going to come of the fact. Well, listen, there's two things you can say. The fact they're doing another strategic review with IMG tells you one of the conclusions will be get rid of IMG.
Yeah.
And because we know Nigel's position on the French teams, and he's not alone in that, by the way. There's others who think it, whether you would disagree or not with that, and that's a conversation we need to have at some point. But it will also say get rid of the French teams.
I think the way they've gone about Catalans this season and making Catalans pay for the travel and the expenses of all the Super League teams, we're getting that way to making it as difficult as possible for Catalan Dragons anyway.
Listen, I've had a message today saying Catalans are potentially having to offload more players because they really are struggling with finances. Yeah. We know now that, well, we knew last week when we spoke about it, that it was Catalans who approached Hull KR about whether they would buy Morg now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think financially Catalans are feeling the pinch at the minute. I think it's a real tough time for them.
Can I just, lastly on the IMG, and you mentioned the sort of, you want someone from out of the sport looking in that can help and review it. Well, IMG was supposed to be that. And not only that, is that the grading system was brought in by IMG. Well, where do we stand with that? That's obviously with the 12 Super League clubs and what's going on at Salford, and they were really close with Toulouse in 12th and 13th. Where are we with the grading system moving forward? Will that stay in place? Do we know how Super League looks in 2020? This could be the only sport I'm not sure what next year looks like. I think the grading
system was not, personally, I think it's nonsense anyway. I think the structure of it.
I disagree.
I don't like it.
I like it.
I don't like, it's a box ticking exercise, and you can tick those boxes very easily without having to, you can meet criteria to tick that box, but then fall away from, and then just meet it again the year later. That's my issue.
I'll meet you in the middle. I think gradings has been a good thing because it has brought standards up.
Yeah.
It has, and no one can deny that.
I'm not denying that as well.
It's forced that. I agree with you that because it's a box ticking exercise, you can find ways to do things without doing them the right way. As an example, anyone who's been to Odsal knows that Odsal is just not fit for purpose.
Nope.
But I reckon Bradford can get full marks on facilities this year, which is just wrong. Sorry, and that's not Bradford's fault. It has to be stronger.
I'm not going to name them, but we're in round 5. Yes, we've had 5 rounds of Super League. I've been at home. I do eventually, go out sometimes, but I've been home on nights, excuse me, on a Thursday and a Friday and on a weekend, and everyone in our team, from you two to Dave Craven, Dan Thompson, has messaged at some point and said, the Wi-Fi at this ground is non-existent and shocking. It might seem a small thing, but when you're a grade A Super League club that prides itself on we're brilliant at this, and this, and you can't even supply the media with the facility to be able to report on your game, and people are scrambling around trying to use their own phones to generate Wi-Fi signal. And I've
had
Mouse.
to use my personal hotspot at pretty much every game this season.
Yeah.
The only place that works time and time again is Headingley. It's the only place where the Wi-Fi works without fail every time.
Yeah, and I know it seems a little thing, but it just...
on Huddersfield
it all feeds into that.
How have we ended up talking about Wi-Fi?
I don't know. Let's move on.
You're right, though. I get the point you're making. It's like I don't want to call out any club here, but at Castleford, I was doing the Cas game a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't get on the Wi-Fi the whole game, and we can't even see the screen because of where we're sat at the back of the stand. The roof, and it's a big part of being able to cover a game now if you can't see the screen.
I know people watching and listening to this will be like, well, that's,
what are you on
your
about?
problem. But media is sort of a part of the rugby league, isn't it?
It is.
And we're there. We're not there for fun. We're there to work.
Fighting to try and get as much publicity as we can.
Absolutely.
We need to be able to.
We love the sport. We want to write about the
game.
sport.
We need to be able to report on it.
So that's the point. Yeah, we're not.
So everyone will be on with the violins out. Let's talk about something. Something that also is important. Don't know if anybody's aware. I don't think Josh is aware of this. But myself and Matt went to Las Vegas a few weeks back.
Why did you go to Las Vegas?
Right.
I'm not sure we've actually all sat on a podcast together since then, Was it?
Probably not.
Was it
Probably
good?
not.
Yeah, did you have a good time?
It was all right.
Yeah, we won it in a quiz. It was name 10 Kylie Minogue songs, and if you could do it, you get to go to Vegas.
I bet you couldn't do that, could you?
On the spot, maybe not.
Oh,
I'm sure the podcast before we went, Matt was up in, this is just quickly, how he was going to get beer and sorted and all that at the stadium. And there was nothing.
Yeah.
No beers. No
Oh,
food.
I know. Oh. Hey, listen,
I know this
the
is again,
Allegiant Stadium would have failed minimum standard in a Super League game.
If it was a Super League game, this is true.
There was no food provided.
No,
food is obligatory.
By this point, the 17 people that listen have turned off, and the other people that are listening are still
Not
in
only
the
was there
media.
no hot food, there wasn't even water.
No, it was disgraceful.
long
It
day.
was pretty disgraceful.
Well, he was the one that was up in.
But-
I
I
could
could
have
not
beers. Or
believe
look
it.
at you, Josh.
And that was our friends at the NRL who were responsible for that because they wouldn't pay for it. But there we got this. Vegas is happening again next year. We know that anyway. It's part of a 5-year deal. We already knew that there was going to be a Super League game. We now know the 5 clubs that are in contention. We've got Hull FC, Hull Kingston Rovers, Leeds Rhinos, St Helens, and Huddersfield Giants. You're smiling at me as I say Huddersfield Giants. That's disrespectful to Huddersfield Giants, but
I couldn't say they were perfectly entitled to apply. And they have
completely out. I wasn't laughing at that. It's just the way you were smiling at me as I said it. And Huddersfield Giants were down to 5. Don't start me going. We're down to 5. We know it's not going to be a Hull derby.
We're down to 4.
Well, I say we know it's not going to be a Hull derby.
It won't be a Hull derby.
Everything points to it's not going to be a Hull derby. I would say the leading 3 contenders are probably Hull Kingston Rovers, Leeds Rhinos, and St Helens. You agree?
I think it will be Hull KR and one of Leeds and Saints.
Yeah.
I think the key thing is, from what I can gather, Hull KR would be more willing and more receptive to a home game.
Yeah, they're prepared to give up a home game.
So, and if that's the case, they're assuring to get it.
Yeah.
And then who they go with, it'll be Leeds or Saints, I think.
If it is Hull KR, which I think we think it might be, I don't know why, but I'm leaning more towards Leeds Rhinos, and I don't know why. I just think that Yorkshire derby, I don't really matter that much, but I don't know why. I just think if it's Hull Kingston Rovers, it feels like a nice fit to have Leeds Rhinos there as well.
I think this is me reading between the lines. When I approached Saints about if they give me a statement on their intentions for Vegas, knowing that they had applied, they wouldn't comment. Leeds were more than willing to, which just reading between the lines of that says to me Leeds are more confident than Saints. I don't think you can understand if Saints don't think they are going to get it, that they don't want to go, yes, we are in for it, and then not get it because it's optically not a great look.
No.
So that's me putting 2 and 2 together, I know, but I think the direction of travel is probably Hull KR Leeds at the minute. And Huddersfield, listen, in all seriousness on Huddersfield, they were more than what, they were entitled to apply. I think they know they're not going to get it because they want the best teams there, and Huddersfield haven't won a game this season, barring Hunslet in the Cup. And the fans, they're not going to take.
They're not going to travel in as many numbers.
No, they're not. So Huddersfield, I think they know, but fair play to them for wanting to go. Even if they knew they weren't going to get it, I think it's good to see that they want to be in that conversation.
Yeah, good choice, Josh. If and it is still an if it is Hull Kingston Rovers and Leeds Rhinos.
Yep, and what we want to see is a huge following, Super League represented well on the field and off the field. So yeah, I'm all down for that. My only sort of side question to the both of you, I suppose, would be, would that already be the end of the Amsterdam Challenge? That was that supposed to be an ongoing thing? Does that get put on a back burner now next year?
No,
I know it's only a little.
I still think that can go ahead. Anyway, it's a pre-season game. I don't think it's like from Hull to Amsterdam. You can fly it in 50 minutes.
Yeah. I suppose the biggest thing is
it takes you longer to get to Wigan on a Friday night or whatever. So I don't see it being impacted.
Which is good, which is what I want to hear. Yeah.
I think what it might hurt the Amsterdam Challenge in terms of attendance.
Because that's true. If you're going to Vegas, the likelihood is
you're going to save your pennies,
especially when it's getting expensive following Rugby League. When you're throwing in a Magic weekend, when you're throwing in potentially, okay, I'll be thinking a trip for the Challenge Cup final and a grand final.
You can potentially get 2 trips to Catalan with Luke.
You could get 2 trips to Catalan
and potentially a trip to Dublin next year.
Which,
this guy is the Segway king. I've got to give him that.
King of segways.
I have learned in 5 weeks.
Honestly.
You are better than me at this. I'll give you that.
I'll be sat there before we know it.
King of segways. You've got some locomotion to you today. Yeah, Josh, can't get out of your head.
The thing is, he won't know.
No.
I've just gone.
So listen, Josh, especially for you talk about this one now, trip to Dublin. Who's going? We don't know, actually. Haven't been confirmed yet, but who do we think might be going? We ran a story on it. Might have been Matt's story, but you claim credit. All right, Josh, your story.
I think, I'll claim it, why not?
I got the quotes in Las Vegas airport.
You did, and then sent it to me, so I get the byline.
So
I get the claim. Yeah, so
take us through it.
Carl Fitzpatrick, who told Matt that they are looking again. It's their turn to sort of organise their fixture on the road with Wigan next year, and that has been outed as a potential destination. I think Warrington Guardian previously reported it with the Warrington Wolves chairman mentioning it. Fantastic. Another one that's sort of, it's not as costly as Las Vegas, and it's expanding the game. It's allowing Super League fans to go somewhere new. I'm not sure what stadiums. I think in the piece I mentioned Aviva Stadium, which is something like 55,000 capacity, which would be, I imagine, far too big for something like that.
Well, but just the big stadium, Croke Park, is huge. I mean, that's a monstrosity.
But just to go to a new destination, it's what Super League fans want, and giving them these memories of Las Vegas. So that could be the potential place for Warrington and Wigan next year. If there's going to be a confirmation, we're not too sure yet. But the fact that Carl Fitzpatrick is name dropping that place means that it's probably more than likely. You'd like to think.
And when we've got Wigan potentially going to Paris. Has that been confirmed?
It hasn't been confirmed, but when we both went to Perpignan,
we should talk about that more.
We no, I'm not giving you any joy. When that sounded horrible, didn't it? Sorry. When we were in Perpignan, they said the plan was to play in Paris at the start of the 2026 season against Wigan. There was a reason for Wigan, wasn't there? I think was that their first Super League game was against Wigan. I think or at home.
Pass on that one.
I think
obviously they played in
Wigan.
Barcelona, so they've got that sort of connection of taking games on the road, and then part of Catalan's celebrations next year.
I think Stade Gilbert Brutus is maybe unavailable at that time as well because they're doing ground renovations.
30 years since PSG.
Yeah, it's an anniversary. It's the anniversary.
30 years since PSG played Wigan in the opening game of Super League. Yeah, Super League's existence. First ever game.
Yeah, and I think it was an anniversary for Catalans as well. So.
Right. Okay. We touched on them a little bit earlier. I do want to discuss Hull Kingston Rovers again now. Great win. Just a terrific win on Sunday afternoon. Lee have been in really good form this season. Unbeaten with Hull Kingston Rovers. 30 points to 0. Didn't give them a sniff. Rovers can probably even play better than that still. I think they've got even more in the tank. 3 points clear, opening up a bit of a lead on Wigan, who you would imagine are going to be the ones pushing them come the end of the season for that League Leaders Shield. Everything's rosy at the minute in East Hull with the new stadium plans and what's coming on with the training ground and everything else. They're in a really good position at the minute, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And they're playing so well. It's hard to find anything to pick fault in Hull KR at the minute, really.
But in a way, you don't want to. What we want to do is celebrate what is one of the great success stories of the last few years. We talked about it coming 100%. In. The way that crowd, the attendance figure has skyrocketed. There was over 11,000 again there against Leigh. The stadium's looking better all the time. They're adding new bits to it. Craven Street's been a big success. off the field, they look great.
They're nailing it off the field. They're nailing it on the field.
And on the field.
They're just nailing everything.
We said at the start of the season, one of the best packs.
Yeah.
They've got a real desperation to defend well that we saw from Wigan for the last couple of years.
I would if I'm getting free breakfast, if I keep nil.
This is it.
I'd do anything.
Yeah.
I do.
They get free breakfast.
I tell you what, if you offered me a free full English every time we came in on a Monday, if we hit targets, those targets would be it. Especially if it were coming out of your pocket.
If we start offering Josh a free breakfast across the road from our Manchester office, he might actually turn up and contribute with a good performance on the podcast. What do you think, Josh? If we throw a bagel your way, a little croissant?
No, it needs to be a proper fry up.
Josh, you were at the game yesterday while Matt was getting beat in his table tennis tournament. Talk to us how impressed you were with Rovers yesterday.
Really impressed. They look great. You know, the real test, as you said, I think comes. They've got Huddersfield next, I think it is. Then the Derby Challenge Cup, and then it's Wigan. That's when the sort of real...
And then Hull FC away again.
Yeah, so so there's a real test coming up. Willie Peter said exactly what you said. He said, we're not getting ahead of ourselves. There's plenty more to come. Now, as a Hull KR fan, you know, Matt Peatwood said the same all across last year, but that's exciting to think that there's more to come from a team that are absolutely killing it so far this year. They look great. Mikey Lewis with 2 tries and an assist, and Dean Hadley, 80 minutes, went from the back row and then into the forwards. He's just a superb Super League player. He's great. They looked fantastic, and the Wi-Fi worked. As just going on what we were saying earlier, fantastic Wi-Fi. So,
Dean Hadley, I think he got the man of the match in the stadium.
Yeah.
You could probably give him it every week if you're judging it on 80-minute performance where he just rolls his sleeves up and it's like, right, I'm going to work so hard for this team, because he does that every week. The engine on the guy, the commitment, that he's just phenomenal.
He should be in the England squad, Smilesy. He should be in the England squad. I know time isn't on his side now.
Why isn't he then?
I don't know.
Is it?
It might be an age thing, and Sean Wayne's obviously been looking at building towards 2026 World Cup, but as we get closer to it, and he's maintaining those levels. I mean, if you asked Wigan about him, about Dean Hadley, they'd say he's one of the most important players in the whole KR team.
Yeah,
and I think every team would say the same.
Surely every team would love a Dean Hadley, wouldn't they?
I mean, listen,
probably if he was ever became available on the market, I think they re-signed, didn't they? And he had interest. He's he's a fantastic player.
You're going to struggle to get him in the back row. With you've got Kai Pearce-Paul, you've got Nsemba. So there's Bateman, obviously, who I don't think is quite the player he was, but he turns up for England every time. I just think as a squad man, given his utility value, he can play loose, he can play front row, he can play back row, and the way he performs, how good he is, he's a very useful addition to a squad.
Yeah. Is he just hampered on international level though? Because when you play in the club game, you cannot, because of the salary cap, have a pack littered with superstars. You need someone that can play the 80 minutes to rotate your 2 maybe like big superstars. In international, and you've got the cream of the crop, you can just keep rotating, playing them for 15, 20 minutes.
Possibly.
Very rarely at international do you see a forward go and play a full 80 minutes.
You could be right. Yeah. It's a good point. It's a good point.
Right, okay, well, I'll put that down as my first of the year. But right, we're running out of time. Let's just round off a couple of transfer lines. Singleton from Salford to Castleford.
Good pickup.
Really good pickup. Really good piece with Dave Craven this week. I recommend if people get to see it. You got a sense of the turmoil he was going through and how tough a decision. Do we think there'll be any more out of Cass? It's gone out of Salford, so it's been very quiet the last week. It looks like maybe they might be getting on an even keel soon, but we'll see.
Well, listen, they've got a HMRC bill and payroll to sort this week. So hopefully they've got the finances to get through that. They might have to cash in. I don't know. Let's say this, it wouldn't be a surprise if more left, but I also won't be shocked if none did. I think we'll have to see. That's very non-committal, I know.
Okay.
It's a good pickup though, Singleton. I saw people go, he's past it. Singleton still does a job, and he will do a job for that cast pack. They need one of those forwards who's going to have the elbows in and the knees and just be not nice to run at or have to run at you. He gives them some toughness and some steel in the middle that they lack. It's a good signing.
One at the other end of his career, quickly, Josh, Harvey Hill, picked up by Hull FC for next season from Wigan Warriors. You've seen a little bit of him. Going back to maybe the first or second pod, I think you might even have mentioned him of he could be in for a good year.
Yeah.
What do you make of that deal?
Yep, I think that's a fantastic pickup for Hull. He was the standout for Wigan across pre-season. I think 16 appearances last year. I think his best appearance came in the World Cup Challenge from the interchange bench, where he stood up really strong against some of the world's best forwards. And that's the potential that he has, and Hull has seen that. And I imagine Wigan, will be frustrated in losing him, but that's the salary cap, that's the sport we're in. Hull FC have got a really good pickup there. Yeah, he's definitely one for now and one for the future.
Brilliant. Right, good stuff. Well, we finish on the Kylie Minogue fan club poster boy. Thanks for being with us from myself and from Josh, and we'll see you next week. Matt?
Above all else, enjoy rugby league. Take care.